Piston is actually coming out of the deck surface. All the rings and all the pistons are all hung, ready to go. Everything is balanced. Please start. Hey, I'm gonna make Red Ted's engine today, and I'm gonna start with the heads. So what I've gotta do here is I've gotta lap all the valves, make sure they're not leaking, and get the best seal I possibly can. They're very, very nice. They're not new, but I've actually used them before. These are Ferrera valves. These are very, very nice. So I'm gonna use these in the Red Ted. Believe it or not, the Suicide MX-3 has stock valves, so this is getting some extra dicey stuff because I really want this car to work. Since COVID and stuff, I just wanna honestly just drive my damn car on the street whenever I want to. I'm gonna get to it, start lapping some valves. What I did there was I put the intake valves in and I found which ones fit the best in each hole. So I moved them around and went through and made sure, found the best fit, because if it doesn't fit good, you'll see light. And I basically went through until I could not see any light, or at least the least possible. The less lapping I do, the better, and the better seal. And time is money, so let's get it. So I'm gonna add some compound and then go to the other side with the drill. And what I'm doing is I'm pushing in and out while having the drill on to get compound in there. Once the sound changes, you can hear when the compound is actually like pushed away from the friction, then you add more. Then do this a bunch of times and take it out, clean it, check it. Do this to all the valves and get these things sealed up. So as you can see down in here, the seats are gray, and that is because they are lapped. Before they would be brown, because this is obviously a used head. I'm not a rich boy. I'm a broke boy trying to make power. You know what I'm saying? You'll get the same thing on here. You'll get that nice gray all the way around. So what I've done is I've fully lapped everything, cleaned everything. So I'm gonna put the valves in, and then I'm gonna check inside the port with the valve in it, and I'm gonna see if I can see light. I'll see if I have to re-lap any, and I'll go from there. So I've got everything numbered, 2, 3, 4, and then same from this way, 2, 3, 4, all the way there. There's my valve. I'm gonna close it with my finger on the outside, push it in, and see if there's light. And that one has no light, so I'm gonna try the other valve. Just open the other valve, and I'm gonna slam her shut, see if there's light, and I do see a tiny, tiny bit of light. See when it's shut, that little bit of light? I'll relap this one, I'll mark it, and I'm just gonna go through and mark the ones that I need to relap them and make sure things are all good and recheck them after that. Sometimes people ask me how cold it is in my shop. That's ice. I'm going to put all the valves in with oil on all the seats so nothing rusts. Get these guys in there in their numbered holes. Then I'm gonna flip it and see if those valve springs are gonna fit. All right, so here are my valve springs that I got. These are out of a Subaru, I believe, and they actually fit very close to what is supposed to work in these heads. So they don't fit in the exhaust spots very well. So what I have to do is actually remove material where it has to go into the seat here. So I'm just gonna remove a little bit, maybe like 3 thou, and see if they fit better. They fit in the intake side fine because the intakes are much bigger on this head, which is the KLZE head. And yeah, the exhaust ports are very small and they don't spin freely into the seat down there. This is a stock KL valve spring and this is an upgraded one. Fairly easily can push this one down, and this is much stiffer, so that's why it's an upgrade. It'll hold the valve shut under boost. Also, these are thicker. These are almost a mil thicker, and the tolerance is basically 0.7. So I'm gonna have to remove some material, not much, few thou. Take a head into the sanding room and take off the material until they fit with a little bit of play, a couple thou. All right, so now I'm gonna do the valve seals. I'm very excited to do that. That's very fun. They just basically get pushed on, put some oil on, and you'll just feel the little click, and then you're good to go. Now I'm gonna install the springs. I'm gonna put the smaller ones in the exhaust port. So these ones are gonna be all the smaller ones that I modified, and these are gonna be the ones that are untouched. So the valves are in, the valve seals are in, and the valve springs are in. So now it's time to put the actual retainers on and finish this head off completely. I got all the valves, all the springs, all the retainers ready to go. So I went new springs, cleaned up valve, and I'm gonna put cams in this engine. So it's going to be an absolute beast. And I've never run cams in any of my engines. I've never ran big cams. I've ran ZE cams, but that's not like technically an aftermarket cam. I'm doing custom ground turbo cams, tri-flows. They're gonna flow, and I can't wait to feel it. It's gonna feel like bolt-on freaking displacement. It's gonna feel like it's a bigger engine, so that's gonna be sick. This head is all hunky-dory, ready to go, and I'm super stoked about that. All right, my home guy, Cody's here, and he's going to measure out my block here. I can measure it with a Vern, but there's proper ways of doing things, and he's gonna double check it for me. Let's hope he has some good news and not some bad news. Yeah. That will not be good. Then he's the bad guy if there's problems.
Verniers are plus or minus 5 thou, not 2 thou, what you're supposed to have.
We'll see what happens. Oh my God. I'm just hoping that it's good because there's hours and hours and hours into this absolute frickin' paperweight.
We're gonna have to put it in there.
So Cody checked those. The clearances were okay. They weren't perfect, but they're okay. So let's pray that my bearings aren't going to stick to the actual crank and spin a crank bearing. So 17 thou did not fit because it's actually smaller. So this is 16 thou. These are my new rings. I'm going to gap them to 20. The 20 thou feeler gauge fits in now, so I'm good to go on the top ring. And then 21 down here. All the rings and all the pistons are all hung, ready to go, and everything is balanced. This whole rotating assembly has been balanced. Everything is the exact same weight, and things are looking good. It's almost time to put this together. I cleaned the block, I cleaned the main girdle, I cleaned the pistons. I am ready to go here. The first things I'm gonna put in is the crank, and that is what I'm gonna do right now. Oh my God, the thing is actually in one piece. This has been months and months and months trying to design my engine to go around this transmission, which is 4-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, whatever you want to call it. It is going to power all 4 wheels eventually. Not yet, but I'm going to do that one day. And that's why I fully notched this side of the engine. I'm gonna put a link above on how I did that. I have a full video. But things are looking sweet. Not in this episode, but I'm going to actually have to notch the oil pan as well because this used to go over here, but the diff was in the way, so I did notch all this on the block. This is almost one of the wildest projects I've done. I've literally notched the block, recreated the bottom girdle of the actual engine, and that was a feat in itself. Lots of work, lots of welding, and it's bolted together. The crank spins. Let's just make sure again. Crank spins. That is good. Well, I guess it's time to put the pistons in. And they're numbered from 1 to 6. And they're gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so all the pistons are in. And does anything look weird to you? Maybe that the piston is actually coming out of the deck surface? Bruh, what? Okay, so what that means is literally the piston's gonna smash the head, like big time. It's way off. So once I did all this stuff, it actually warped the deck a little bit. So I took it to a machine shop and I said, take 9 thou off. And they didn't. They took like 27 or 28 thou off. and it's way off. So basically what I measured was the piston to head clearance, and the piston's literally popping out of the deck surface right here. It's protruding out of the deck surface. I can literally catch my nail on it, and it's like 25 thou. What I have to do is I have to tear the engine all the way down again, take the pistons off of the rod, and take them back to this machine shop that made a mistake. I'm gonna tell them to take like 27 thou off the top of my pistons, because literally it's like way off. I'm like, bruh, what are you doing? Like, for real, what are you doing? Ugh. It's not like this engine's got like 40 hours of work in making a main girdle and machining out the block and making a gasket surface for the oil pan. It's not like that's been done, and it's not like this is easily replaceable, right? I told him too, I'm like, yo, this is insanely time consuming stuff I've been doing to this, so be careful. And he just butchers it. Oh my God. So now my head is going to be closer to the piston, so my valves are gonna be closer. Oh my God, I don't even know if the valves are gonna hit. All right, it's time to get these pistons in. I got my ring compressor on my first piston already, and I'll show you how I'm gonna do it. So that was an absolute disaster. I got the machine shop to take off 29 thou, and I'm back in shape again. I'm gonna have a 40 thou gap, and things are gonna work. But honestly, what a pain in the butt that was. That 20 seconds for you is like literally 24 hours of hell for me. So the engine is getting there. One head on, got one more to go, but I can't do the other one until I actually pull the engine out of Red Ted. Steal some valve retainers because I actually ran out because I have so many spares. I almost had a full set. So I actually have to pull that engine out, remove them so I can fully assemble the head before I put it back onto the engine. So I don't really have much room in here because the suicide is here. Do that over a couple hours and then organize the stuff, and then I can finish this engine and then continue on with my transmission swap. I'm gonna be putting a TC tranny in this thing. It's gonna be nasty, nasty, nasty because it's actually gonna hold the power, and I can't wait to try it. I really can't. Have you ever seen somebody curl a car before? All right, you remember Red Ted? So here he is. I'm going to pull the engine out. And I got the engine out, it's right over here. This thing is so nice. It's got nice powder coated parts. It's just awesome. So I'm gonna rip this engine completely apart, salvage everything, sort things, and then get the valve springs and retainers out, because that's why I actually had to do this. So I got the head off the engine as you saw, and as you can see here, I wrote no washer, no washer, no washer. So the whole reason why I had to rip Red Ted apart is because I didn't have one washer out of all 24 valves between the two heads, and it's down in here needing one. So I need to put my washer in there, and then I can fully assemble this. And that's the only reason why I had to pull that entire engine out to do this swap. It would have been much easier if I had the washer to swap it out, but this is what ended up happening. I'm just gonna do it now. And there's your new home. Unreal. So I got all the valve springs and retainers in. This is sick. So I can now move over to my engine and put it on. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is put an AN10 line to my bung that is on the side of the block that I modified for the head drain, and I'm going to shove it in, and I'm gonna syringe oil into that actual gallery that fills up here, and I'm gonna leave it overnight and see if it's gonna leak in between the gasket and the head. I cleaned it all with brake clean, so it's completely clean, and I will see tomorrow if it's actually gonna leak or it's not. Well, this is like 12 hours later, and there's zero leaks. So that is exceptional news. All right, I flipped the engine upside down and I'm looking at my timing tensioner here. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna make a manual one because the stock one always loses pressure and that is never ever good. These things suck so bad because they'll actually just slowly lose pressure and then next thing you know, you almost have this much play in, so that's bad. So it's just literally gonna be, I'm gonna use these as locates for the holes and then it's going to be a tighten and loosen bolt situation to tighten the actual tensioner. So, and then I'm gonna also do my oil pan and I am very pleased to find out that I am not gonna lose any oil capacity. All I'm gonna be losing is about this much, and this was basically just routing the oil back to the center. So I'm not too worried about how it's gonna function as a stock oil pan anymore. So I'm very happy about that. So I'm gonna have to notch probably out here, here, and here. All right, so this is what I gotta cut out of my oil pan here. It's not gonna really mess with the volume aspect of this very much, maybe by 1/8 of a liter maximum, but mostly this is to collect the oil and bring it back to where the pickup is. So that doesn't really scare me. And I've just got my flange here and I'm going to basically bolt that up right there, and then I'm going to fill in the gaps with metal. All right, my flange is in there, as you can see, and it fits up pretty damn mint. So, got the cut out of the oil pan. I'm gonna take this down to bare metal. Then I'm gonna feed a piece in here, tack it, feed a piece in the back, tack it, and then in the side. And then bolt everything down, do a weld, walk away, let it cool, do a weld, walk away, let it cool. Just do a very slow welding process so it doesn't warp, and then I'm gonna be good here, guys. Sweet, now I'm gonna do some mock-up for my timing tensioner. So I'm going to make one that's actually mechanical so I can actually adjust it and it won't move back. Because a hydraulic one, it'll bleed out the pressure after a while, and that is not good, especially when you're running high RPM. Major things could happen. So I'm gonna make a bracket that comes out of here, and then I can screw a bolt up to add tension or loosen it. So the goal is here to have a bolt that will literally screw up and down. So I need to fasten it to this plate. All right, so it's time to start welding some pieces in. Got a few pieces all made up. So I'm going to weld that in for the first piece, and then I'm gonna weld the two sides. And then I'm gonna be pretty well on my way to being complete. Took 4 pieces to do that. It wasn't too big of a deal. An hour and a half to weld it. We're good to go. So now this is gonna clear my differential in the future when I do my all-wheel drive swap. Oh my God, that is looking dirty. Woo. This has been a year in the making, and it is literally here today, and time to party with it. It's time to see what this thing's gonna do. Time to see what this transmission is gonna do. Mocking it up with a front-wheel drive trans. I'm putting in the red TED, gonna throw down about 300 to 400 wheel to the front wheels and see what happens. And I have no doubt that this is gonna be a pretty flawless system. Look how easy this thing shifts by hand. It's ridiculous. This tranny is absolutely sick. I'm pumped about it. Let's see what it's gonna do. Alrighty, so I got this piece. I welded 2 nuts together, and then I have this little spacer. So this is going to go right here for my tensioner, and I've got to kind of get the bolt in the center here. All right, I got my manual tensioner done, and I'm gonna tighten it up and see how tight it'll actually go and make sure all this is gonna work for me. Looking like she's gonna get tight enough. It's already very, very tight, and I still have about a 1/16 of an inch more to go. So I'm thinking things are looking really good. I'm gonna loosen her off and then paint it. So how it works is it bolts on to the block like normal, and then I can tighten and loosen this one to add tension or loosen it, and then this one will lock it together and not let it loosen up like the hydraulic one will. Look at this monster. The timing tensioner I made is working mint. So I can adjust the tension. Right now I have it fairly loose for first startup, because the tighter you have the actual timing belt, the tighter it'll be on your bearings because it's pulling it up. So I want to break in the engine with an idle and a little bit of revving first before I actually tighten this up too much, because I'm very, very, very careful with my first startups. I'm gonna do a third gear pull and I'm gonna brake boost the hell out of it on 15 pounds of boost.